This week, Joe Biden commemorated in an address what happened in Tulsa, the devastating massacre that for most of the last century, most Americans were completely kept in the dark by an education system and a government that wanted to pretend that horrific acts of racial violence like that didn't happen and don't happen. Well, he gave an address. So we're gonna show you just a little bit of it. Here is some of what the president had to say.
And our laws and our culture. We do ourselves no favors by pretending none of this ever happened, or it doesn't impact us today, because it does still impact us today. We can't just choose to learn what we want to know and not what we should know. We should know the good, the bad, everything. That's what great nations do. They come to terms with their dark sides. And we're a great nation. The only way to build a common ground is to truly repair and to rebuild. I come here to help fill the silence, because in silence, wounds deepen.
Okay, well, look, Biden has said that he wants to repair the soul of America and all of that, and that often doesn't end up meaning much. But I think this is an example of that in practice. Him doing, it's a very low bar for an American president, but to actually go to Tulsa, which no president has done, and acknowledge it and to speak about it. That is certainly something. We've got a lot more information, all that we're gonna talk about. But JR, what'd you think about that speech?
Yeah, okay, he's saying the right things again, like, with many of these things. What's the next step? No, I didn't watch the address in full and see what his proposals may be next. Were there proposals? Is there something that's coming down the line on the agenda when in the House and it's gonna lead to the Senate? Are we gonna, we're already dealing with the battle back and forth about critical race theory, which many people fighting against it. Do they even know what it is? Do they know what the purpose is of it? Or do they think this is a Black Lives Matter hatched scheme to run in the streets and hold up signs and tell you about what you're missing? Because that's not what it is. So it's a matter of whether or not we're gonna not just say the right things, or then do the right things afterwards. Because he says all the right things and it sounds great. Now what are we gonna do to make sure we educate our nation on who we really are, what our real history is, what we've really done? And to the point where people don't have to be embarrassed about their grandfathers and great grandfathers and great great grandfathers being the horrific people that they were. It doesn't have any legacy on you unless you want it to be. So people can continue to try and push back and say, oh man, I can't believe you guys are coming after me and talking about my heritage. If your heritage is based in hatred, murder, and genocide for profit, I think you might want to rethink your heritage. A lot of people have people that they came from that weren't very good. Maybe you had a horrific, alcoholic, abusive grandfather. Doesn't mean you have to be one. Doesn't mean that you have to say that's not my grandfather. My grandfather was a bad person. He did this, he did this, he did that. I'm not that person. Why is it so hard to do that?
That's maturity.
But critical race theory is just analyzing the way that we've always had the basis for racism in our country and how it has been applied to every aspect of our lives to this day. If it's ingrained in our society, it still lives. It can't be separate from the way that you point out that the Confederacy is your heritage, and you're still carrying around the Confederate flag. That means it didn't go away. That means it's ingrained in you. That means it's still there and thriving, right?
Yeah.
So if our past also has rampant racism, which came after slavery, genocide, murdering of people, separating from their families, maiming and killing them for sport and for fun, because that did happen. But if we don't acknowledge that happened, we can ignore it and act like it's still not there. So when you ingrain something in your society and it's still there, and because you haven't rid yourself of it, same way you like to praise your Confederate flag, if your Confederate flag still has some kind of meaning to you, that means the things that happened when that Confederate flag was being hoisted by traitors to the nation still has something to do with our country too. And the things they stood for is what we need to analyze and expose to people who've always been told it was just a few people who held a couple slaves and kept them in some small houses, and they worked in the fields and sang and drank and were just fine. Because that's the picture that we paint about our history in this country. And we don't want to see the reality, because you know what that means? It means we can stop saying glowing things on Martin Luther King's birthday and point out how Harriet Tubman was this great abolitionist and maybe put her on the $10 bill or $20 bill, whatever they're trying to put her on. And then afterwards go, okay, everything is fine, right? No, it's still ingrained in our society. We still have people in this day in every profession, from teachers to doctors to lawyers to judges to taxi drivers to politicians to businessmen to anyone who affects every other aspect of someone else's life. That's still it's ingrained in them, in our system. It's the way it works. Yes, you can be a black police officer and still take part in the way that we destroy the people that are the others. So just because a black police officer is involved doesn't mean that it's still not the same system we've always worked in, where the white police officers are doing the same thing, and the Latino police officers and the Asian police officers, because we've seen in every instance, every race has done this because it's systemic. You see it in front of your face. So every time you push back and say, oh, the minority was doing it, that's why this is a systemic problem. You don't know you're proving our point, but you don't want to continue that conversation because you just might look that bad.
Yeah. Well, and they certainly don't want people to be able to draw a line from, the insane violence that we're talking about here to the continuing efforts to disenfranchise and economically beat down whole communities. Pretend it didn't happen in the past, so you don't have to take it happening now seriously. While also, like bringing it up randomly, like Tucker Carlson talking about how if there were separate water fountains, the unvaccinated would have to use one or something. Like, so they get that stuff did exist when it's able to be used to make them seem like the victims now, but not in the past. Very, very well said. There's no benefit, there's nothing gained in pretending that the past was rosy and that we never did anything wrong. That's not how anything works.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.